viewed the literature?
In 1964, I received a subscription to Highlights magazine on my 6th birthday. Every month brought a puzzle page with an intricate drawing full of hidden pictures. I relished searching for the hidden pictures. Half a century later, this surrealist skill helped me to discover Buffalo's enchanted landscape. I read Chariots of the Gods by Eric von Daniken. His book was the first to question some of the false assumptions about the Stone Age. My impression of the Stone Age involved club-wielding brutes dragging women back to their caves by the hair. But that stereotype was shattered when I saw that the Stone Age included master builders with advanced knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and metrology. What they accomplished are incomprehensible feats of engineering and science. Megalithic walls of impossible skill stand in silent testimony to a lost civilization. In 1972, I read the 16th century epic, The Death of Arthur, by Sir Thomas Malory. The Arthurian romances are ablaze with otherworldly intrigues, transforming ordinary landscapes into portals of supernatural wonders. The soul's secret fire can be ignited by the contents of the right book. In 1973, I read J.R.R. Tolkien's now classic The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Far from pure fantasy, Tolkien's fairy tale reflects how Indo-European mythology evolved over the course of 4,000 years into Celtic myths and legends. Tolkien borrowed from older sagas and reworked the ancient images into a new consummate legendarium. His Middle-earth exemplifies an enchanted landscape, embodying the three-tiered universe, a heavenly realm, the dangerous underworld, and Middle-earth, which combines the mundane and the supernatural. In 1975, I read The Secret Power of Pyramids by Bill Scholl and Ed Petit, along with many other related titles. This sketch of the wondrous Great Pyramid and of sacred geometry was my introduction to the ancient Egyptian mystery traditions. This early research prepared me to recognize some ancient Egyptian symbols hidden in plain sight on the radial street grid and integrated parks system of Buffalo, Niagara. In 1976, I read Star Names, Their Lore and Meaning by Richard Allen. This book opened my eyes to the diverse mythologies connected with the stars. When there's a line of sight to a star on the horizon, that line becomes imbued with the star's subtle energy, and it can stimulate our mythical imagination. Ellicott's radial grid and Olmsted's integrated park system include arteries that point intentionally at rising and setting stars and other celestial phenomenon, amplifying the landscape with celestial meaning. In 1980, I began attending lectures at the Analytical Psychology Society of Western New York. The writings of Dr. Carl Gustav Jung underscore the importance of myths and fairy tales. They help us see how instincts and emotions operate. Jung also used astrology, which epitomizes how archetypes can illuminate human behavior. The founding fathers were using astrology to plan the dedication ceremonies at our nation's capital, and in the founding of the city of Buffalo, Ellicott follows their lead. In 1982, I read Jean Michel's New View over Atlantis. This work shed light on the high degree of scientific knowledge available in the Stone Age, encoded at Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid, and many of the Gothic cathedrals of Europe. Ancient peoples understood astronomy, and they cultivated an intimate relationship with the cosmos. In 1990, I read 12 Tribe Nations and the Science of Enchanting the Landscape by John Michel and Christine Rohn. This work chronicles an ancient network of sacred sites called the Dragon Track. Many sacred sites exist at crossroads on the earth. Buffalo Niagara is on such a crossroads, and here we find there is an ancient dragon legend. This triggered my epiphany of the sacred geography of Buffalo Niagara. In 1991, I began to read the publications of the Buffalo Historical Society and to examine historical maps of the Niagara frontier. In this way, I gathered evidence about the enchanted landscape of Western New York and the deep history of Buffalo Niagara. It's full of numinous archetypal stories and interesting figures. In 1994, Robert Bauval and Adrian Gilbert published The Orion Mystery. They confirmed my intuition that the pyramids of Giza depict the belt of Orion. I was inspired to search for and discover a similar configuration, the proportions of Vitruvian Man, representing Osiris, in Olmsted's integrated park system. In 1995, Graham Hancock published Fingerprints of the Gods, the evidence of Earth's lost civilization. Hancock proposes humanity is a species with amnesia. He believes we're missing important chapters of human history due to some cataclysmic event. He challenges, quote, quackademics to explain how massive stones were quarried, transported, shaped, and raised into place using the primitive tools alleged to have been available in the Stone Age. In 2002, I read The Secret Architecture of Our Nation's Capital, the Masons, and the Building of Washington, D.C. by David Ovason. This in-depth investigation of the astrological symbolism encoded in Washington, D.C.'s architecture and landscape designs corroborated my novel research at Buffalo Niagara. Joseph Ellicott was directly involved with Washington, D.C.'s well-documented enchanted landscape. And 5 years later, he designed the radial grid of Buffalo at the source of the Niagara River. In 2004, Hancock and Bauval published their sweeping investigation entitled Talisman, Sacred Cities, Secret Faith, in which they trace the occult practice of Gnosticism, which they claim has helped to shape the world through its influence on architecture and monumental landscape design. Their in-depth research helps us put into context Buffalo Niagara's enchanted landscape as being part of a deep historical intrigue. In 2011, I had the pleasure to watch Secrets in Plain Sight by Scott Onstott. This tour de force of sacred geometry in architecture and landscape design spans the globe. It challenges the imagination to understand how so many symbolic numbers and correspondences could occur over and over again in seemingly unrelated places. Around this time in 2011, I watched a video series on YouTube by researcher Chad Stumpke entitled Sacred Landscapes, Stargate Detroit. Stumpke pieces together the deep history of the city of Detroit, highlighting the sacred geometry of Augustus Woodward's radial street grid, plus the cosmic symbolism by the Japanese-American artist Isamu Noguchi, in which he incorporates ancient Egyptian motifs in his 1970 design of Detroit's Hart Plaza. Detroit lies at the opposite end of Lake Erie. The parallels between Chad Stumpke's research and my own are irrefutable. They point to the mystical intentions of the founding fathers. In 2017, I read The Golden Game, Alchemical Engravings of the 17th Century by Stanislaus Kozlowski de Rola. 17th century alchemists set their sights on knowing the relationship between the inner world of the imagination and the outer world of matter. They sought to bring mythology and empirical science onto some sort of balance, using all manner of wordplay, such as metaphors, similes, homonyms, and simulacras, that is, things that look alike. The object of the Golden Game was to guess the meaning of visual allegories and literary metaphors. One of the primary objectives of alchemy is moral development and psychological balance, the restoration of humankind in alignment with the great creator of all things in heaven and on earth. In 2023, I watched a series on Gaia TV entitled Mysteries of the Knights Templar, featuring Scott Wolter and Timothy Hogan. Hogan is a highly decorated Grand Master of the Knights Templar. This series makes extraordinary claims about the Knights Templar and their role in the founding of the United States of America. I read Timothy Hogan's remarkable book entitled Revelations of the Holy Grail by Chevalier Emeritus. This book connects many dots, from the fall of Atlantis to the Arthurian legends to the founding of the United States of America. Timothy Hogan explains the ancient concept of mana, or monoatomic salts, which allegedly exude miraculous powers for the healing and levitation. From time immemorial, certain members of the human family have been keeping a close watch on the stars and planets. As far back as we look, long before records were kept, we find evidence of people all around the world creating massive representations of the constellations on the landscape. Why? World mythologies hint at these enigmatic landscape designs being involved with the soul's journey back up to the stars. Human imagination is the medium by which the soul can be transformed from a physical body into a plasma field called the body of light, or the resurrection body. This is ancient alchemy, the gnosis of self-realization. This has been a brief synopsis of the books and videos which have provided the knowledge, history, and ancient metaphysical worldview to discover and interpret the enchanted landscape of Buffalo, Niagara. I hope you will join us next time as we explore the idea of the heavens on the earth.